Hey everyone, I am Sanket Singh. I'm working as a software engineer at Google and welcome back to my channel. So guys, in today's video, we are going to discuss a lot of things around front-end engineering with one of my very, I would say, fellow friend with whom I have worked a lot. With him, I have shared a lot of journey in tech. We are like really good friends, and he is working in one of the top tech startups of India. Most probably, you have also used it, or maybe at least seen the advertisement, the famous advertisement of the startup. So he is working there as a front-end engineer. So we are going to have a lot of discussion around that in today's video, right? So today we have Tathagat with us. Tathagat is a computer science graduate from Thapar Institute, that is in Punjab. He's a 2020 grad. He graduated with me only, and we are those like COVID buddies, जिन्होंने those who graduated in COVID and like worked together during COVID, before COVID, after COVID. So a lot of things are there in the memories. After Thapar University, he also collaborated with me as an intern also, and as a full-time engineer also at Coding Blocks. Then he also joined Ixigo, contributed to various parts of Ixigo as a front-end engineer. You might have already used Ixigo. It's one of the most famous apps used for bookings around air tickets, railway tickets, etc. And now, finally, he has joined Cred as a front-end engineer. So congratulations, first of all, Tathagat, and really, really thank you for giving us your time and joining the podcast.
Hey, thank you, Sanket. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So one thing that I can tell you about Tathagat is like, I know there are like two kind of front-end developers, one who know what is JavaScript and one who know what is Webpack. He is the latter one. So that's why if I am having any front-end query, then I definitely go to Tathagat and definitely discuss with him. And not only me, a lot of people with whom Tathagat has worked, really admire his work. So today we are going to discuss a lot of things and take some very deep insights around what are the things that are really required to be a good, and definitely I would say, and if you are an aspiring front-end developer, then what are the things that are required to be a good software engineer in that world of front-end. So without any further delay, let's just start. So, Tathagat, first of all, you have recently joined Cred as a front-end engineer. So why not let's just start talking with Cred. How was your interview experience when you shifted from Ixigo? What was the overall process like, and what were some really important topics that you felt were asked in the interview of Cred?
Yeah. So, I was pretty sure to actually switch from the front end team to the front end team again. So, the reason I picked Cred was again for its fabulous UI and UX the app has. So I was pretty sure that my interview will be revolving around the front end roles because I'll sit for front end roles only. So the interview, every front end interviews again will have most of the common topics involved, but so first of all, there is no data structure algorithms as far as the most of the front end roles interviews are concerned, and so that was again the reason I went into the front end wala role. So the interview, so I basically had two tech rounds at Cred, and one cultural fit, or you can say managerial round, third one. So the first round again started it contained majorly the basics of JavaScript. You can, few topics of JavaScript, and you can say CSS and HTML, and your past experience as well. What did you work upon, and your past projects. If you're a fresher, then maybe your past projects or the things you written in your resume maybe. And if you are a full-time, I was a full-time experienced guy of 1.5 years sort of, so they asked me somewhat about my past you can say projects and all those things. So so basically JavaScript may concepts of again closures and all those things are basically the common things which are asked. So JavaScript was most of the time JavaScript was talked about, then few HTML CSS concepts, and apart from it, the interview was more of a conversation kind of an interview. So we actually during it felt like an interview for 10-15 minutes initially, but then it converted into a conversation and then went up to 2.5 hours of of a conversation which was actually an interview, but I felt we both like conversed and felt it as a conversation, and our conversation revolved around mainly these topics only. Basically, this is for the first round I'm talking about. Then came the second round, which was again a tech round. It was again JavaScript was asked, a bit of JavaScript. Maybe you may be given to make some prototype out of not using React again, but using pure vanilla JavaScript and maybe CSS, HTML, and all those stuff. So few prototype building activity, or you can say machine coding round, sort of basically code pairing kind of thing was there in second tech round of Cred. And apart from this, there were like few questions again based on React or whichever framework you've worked with, or you can say your past projects were drilled into whichever projects the interviewer may like, and he may pick and he or she may drill into it. So it was sort of a package of React JS and vanilla JavaScript, React JS, CSS, HTML, and few other projects. So it was again most of the part revolving around this only, and some code pairing. Code pairing was definitely there and would be there if you sit for some front end interview. So they'll test you on your the coding wala skills. How good are you at writing pure vanilla JavaScript without actually, like, because few people these days actually just learn React and they don't actually are hands-on with vanilla JavaScript. So people try to judge you on because frameworks may change like every year, you also know that. So people don't judge you most of the time on the framework you work with, but they judge you on your skills of writing JavaScript. And again, this was again a conversation kind of thing, which again both of us enjoyed, and it went again for 2 hours. And now came the last round. Again, these round may vary depending upon your past feedbacks of interview. Round 1, round 2, maybe few people may have 3 rounds of tech rounds and fourth one managerial round, but I had 2 rounds of tech, and third one was a cultural fit round where the front end lead actually was interviewing me. So that was the most the best round among the 3. We actually all the 3 interviews were actually, it never felt to be an interview, but then third was the best one. We actually went on to discuss about Cred, about why do you want to join Cred, if not Cred then what, and these kind of it was almost a non-tech round. And these 3 were the rounds which I had. And yes.
Before moving forward, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, that is Cryo.do. Cryo.do is the world's only work experience based learning platform to learn the latest tech skills in the market. Cryo Launch by Cryo.do is India's largest tech externship opportunity for developers to showcase their skills and get placed in the best product based companies that are available in the market. For example, Upgrad, Urban Company, Oracle, Paytm, Grofers, Cred, BharatPay, etc. Cryo Launch externships are professional project building opportunities where you work on a real tech problem from the industry. To become a Cryo Launch developer, all you have to do is just crack a coding test. Once selected, you build externship project to prove your developer skills and get hired into amazing product-based companies. And all of it is just for free. You pay nothing at all to become a Cryo Launch developer. Your effort is the only investment. So, what are you waiting for? Join the Cryo Launch program launched by Cryo.do. For details, you can find the special link in the description section below so that you can book a slot for Cryo Launch coding assessment. I would highly recommend you guys to check out Cryo Launch and start your coding journey with Cryo. Okay. So among all these 3 rounds that you discussed, definitely, as you said, it is pretty evident that you enjoyed the overall process. That's, I think, is definitely important. It doesn't matter if you're selected or rejected. The experience is something that you're definitely going to get. So what were some really important, or let's say if I ask you some top 3 things that one should definitely focus based on your interview experience on Ixigo as well as Cred, what are the top 3 to 4 things that you would definitely recommend one to prepare just before an interview if they have a front-end engineering interview for a full-time role?
Yeah. So see, if you talk about in general a front-end interview, let's suppose. So I think according to me, if you're sitting for a front-end interview, then you should definitely revise your JS concepts, because see, every JS concept may not be used in your daily life while you are coding, maybe a production code like that, but then eventually you have to like get those brushed up before you sit for a front end interview, because they are things which are asked in the interview. Like you should be clear like what exactly is the event loop, how does it work, execution context, and all those things. So you must be very clear about, like, you should be having a very clear understanding out of these topics. And people generally, when they sit for an interview, they generally brush these things up, because these are the things. If you search on anywhere, you search like what are the famous interview questions or interview topics to prepare, they'll come up with a list of topics which definitely are asked on the interview. And I would suggest, like, if you talk about JavaScript, so we should be very well versed with few basic concepts, maybe promises, closure, scopes, and these some of these topics. They'll definitely ask you one or two questions from this part, maybe some in one round, some in second round, but they'll definitely ask you. And if you're not very versed with these concepts, they won't even jump onto React wala part, because they don't want React engineers, they want good JavaScript engineers who can just adopt maybe a new framework which comes tomorrow and just implement it, because they are well versed with JavaScript. So JavaScript is definitely the first basic thing which you should brush up. Then you should also brush up the web technology, not technologies, I can say web browser APIs basically. Like, because people these days, what they do is they just learn JavaScript and then stay down to jump into like framework, maybe React, Angular, anyone, Ember. But what they miss is they don't write much of vanilla JavaScript code. So they're not very well versed with maybe event listener, attaching event listener, removing event listeners, browser APIs. So I would suggest you to go through browser APIs as well, because people might ask you to actually code in vanilla JavaScript and not use any framework, any library. So basically, you should also focus on few of the browser APIs and all those stuff. And apart from this, I think these two are the main mandatory things. And then whatever you have written in your resume, basically you need to be very sure that each and every point that you have written this in resume. So you should be, because they might pick any of your projects and might start asking you questions upon it as well. So you should be very sure about these things as well, what you write in your resume about front end experience and all those things. So these three things are the main one. And then again, I can give the whole list of JS that okay, these topics are important, but in a gist, I would say like JS and these React concepts may be asked, may not be asked. That is something which entirely depends upon the interviewer. But again, if you work with React, you should be like a few like bit comfortable with React as well if someone asks you about React. So I think these are the things, and apart from it, you should be like good to go, I think, according to me. Most of the front end interviews revolve around these days. People also like few companies have also started like giving few assignments as a to judge the candidate as well. So you might also get an assignment to make in React maybe, and people also judge you on those things as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can definitely totally relate with whatever you said. Even during my interviews for Sprinkler for the front end role, I can definitely say, first of all, people judge you on vanilla JavaScript, and if you are like really good at it, then only they jump to the concepts of React, because React is something that can definitely change after like 3-4 years, but JavaScript is going to be there for longer, and that definitely makes a lot of sense. So Tathagat, like, you have been working as a front end engineer for quite some time. Obviously, the knowledge that you have inculcated in yourself is like something that comes with time and experience, right? But a lot of people are nowadays if they are either working in companies or maybe are in colleges, are also very much inclined towards front-end engineering. It's now with the boom in React, Angular, and all of these frameworks and the job opportunities that are coming, people are really inclined towards becoming a front-end engineer, and they are seeing their future a lot in front-end engineering. So what do you think one should start with? Like, how would you recommend, if like you were there, if you have to restart everything, and with your current knowledge, if you have to restart everything to learn, what would be a good, I would say, ideal pathway that you would like to give to our audience in order to become a good front-end engineer in 2022?
Right. So I think Sanket, this I mean, if I had to learn front-end engineering, so I would divide this into two parts. Basically, if you're a fresher, then the journey might be a slight different for you. Basically, you should definitely start with basic JS and all those things. It remains the same for the professionals as well, working professionals. But then there are few things which you won't be able to actually learn, or you can say you can implement on in your own personal projects basically. So like once you start working on a production level code, so there are few things which you will definitely get an insight of only then. You can't actually simulate that sitting at home and just working on your own personal projects, or maybe making some clones of Instagram and all those things. But to start a journey in the front end, I would suggest definitely there are 2 points to it. One is to be good at front end technologies. Second is to actually get a job in the front end role. So both things involve you to be good at JavaScript. So first and the foremost requirement is be good at JavaScript. That is the first and foremost thing. Be good at basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is the first, I would say, step to become a front end engineer. You should not actually just directly hop on to maybe React or Angular or any other framework, because that won't help you in a long run, to be honest. Because see, when we talk about any role, let's suppose we are talking about the front end role, so you would be coding like for some initial years, and maybe like with time you'll be, you should be able to architect an application. You should be able to think from an architect level, how do I actually, because writing code is something which everyone definitely will learn in some span of the time, but thinking of how to architect and code will definitely be there when you are actually very sure about what exactly the framework does, how does the framework works actually, and that you will understand when you are good at JavaScript, because coding in React is not equivalent to being good at React. So that is something which is very different. These were very different things. So if you are aiming for a long term front end role, so I would suggest you be good at JavaScript, and then the frameworks are something which you can learn at a go. Basically, if suppose a person is good at Angular and he's looking for a front end role at, say, some X company, and that X company uses React, so we won't, the company won't just reject the candidate because saying ki isne to React pe kaam nahi kiya. They'll judge him on the basis of JavaScript. If he has those JavaScript skills, that company would definitely hire that guy, because they know that he'll be able to learn React. So don't focus on frameworks. I do get a lot of messages from different, like my juniors, from people working with me, my peers. So they ask me ki, okay, what is the framework which is like we should learn in these days? So the first thing is I ask them, how much you rate yourself in JavaScript? If the rating is like below 6 or 5 rating, so I won't actually suggest them to learn the framework. I would suggest go just be very well versed with JavaScript, and then you can learn the framework. So that is something which I suggest all the individuals out there who are just aspiring to be the front end engineer basically.
Makes sense. So on and all, JavaScript is something definitely one should focus more if they want to start their journey,
Yes.
because like as a front-end engineer, you are not just doing the styling part, you're actually building a lot of logics, you're building components, you're optimizing the rendering of the components. And I guess
like I'll tell you honestly, like most of the CSS part, actually, if I talk about myself also, so I like most of the front-end engineers actually don't remember the CSS. They actually just go onto the Stack Overflow and see how to center this button. So that is something which is not expected from you, to be honest. Okay? During an interviews also, the interviewer might tell you, okay, you can use Google. Like most of the code pairing round involves that you are free to use Google. Okay? The interviewer might give you a task, you have to build this, and you can use Google freely. There's no restrictions. You can even go and search how you can go on to MDN and search, okay, how does array.slice work? So basically these things are which no one remembers. Even I sometimes had to Google things like, okay, isko CSS mein kaise karte hain? But those are the things which hardly people expect you to remember, but they expect you to be good at JavaScript. That is the one thing. So JavaScript should definitely be the first priority, because it is the laying, you can say, foundation of your future scope in front end roles. If you're not good at JavaScript, you won't be able to maybe code frequently, or you can say fluently, in TypeScript, because again these are something you won't be able to understand, like why TypeScript. It is strict in nature. It basically imposes some rules and regulations for JavaScript, but how does TypeScript, because again we can get into this like some else, but again browser only understands JavaScript. So how does TypeScript works? Basically browser को जब समझ में कैसे आता है कि okay, this TypeScript mean this in JavaScript, because browser don't actually understand TypeScript. So you won't be able to get into these things if you're not good at JavaScript, to be honest. And how does browser works? So these are some things which should be the laying foundation of every engineer out there.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely, totally agree. So you definitely spotted some really core and important parts as a front-end engineer one should learn. So one very last question that I would like to ask, and I believe a lot of people also ask me this. Can you share like quick one or two resources that you also used to refer during your college days and during your initial years as an engineer to learn JavaScript or maybe to learn any other library or framework? Some top 2 or 3 recommendations, if there is any book, any playlist, anything that you could recommend, that would be really helpful for the viewers.
So I definitely would recommend MDN docs. I mean, they might be overwhelming for few people, but the content which they write is definitely, first of all, definitely 100%. You're 100% sure that it is correct, because things might change in JavaScript like in a short span of time, and you might not be aware about it. So MDN is the first thing which I would suggest everyone to read. Rest, apart from it, you can also, I mean, if we talk about any books, so I have not read the whole series of Kyle Simpson's, you YDKJS, you don't know JavaScript, but I would definitely suggest that book to, I mean, all the viewers, because that is something which I have myself have not read all the books, to be very honest, but I have read one or two parts of that book. So that book is something which will give you a very crystal clear understanding of what the concepts in JavaScript are. And apart from it, like there are like many YouTube series you can look out for, but these two things are what I personally used in these days as well, and like past as well. So MDN and YDKJS are the top two things which I would prefer people out there to maybe look into if they are want to be good at JS.
Definitely. Even I also recommend the You Don't Know JS series to most of my viewers. In a lot of videos, I have also specifically mentioned that please read You Don't Know JS at least once. One part of
Yes,
the book, even if you can read, that is going to also give you a very immersive experience. So all the
because
viewers out
again
there,
the
really
JavaScript
recommend.
part is basically not only understanding how to code in JS, but actually understanding. So the YDKJS actually gives you the understanding of you'll yourself be able to figure out, okay, why frameworks are needed. So basically the insight and the the, you can say, the horizon which the book covers is immense. Basically you won't be getting it in such a thin book, but the book is just awesome, I would suggest.
Yeah, and it also gives you a better picture. Like a lot of people feel that JS is weird. It takes you to a different level where you say, no, JS is not weird. JS is everything what it says in the documentation,
Yes,
and it
it is
actually
weird
follows
because
just like everyday life.
we hardly read the documentation,
Yeah,
but JS is not so much weird. Basically, if you
it's
read
like
the
any other
documentation,
language. It's like
yes.
any other language. C++ has
We
got function
so
pointers, man. If you can see function pointers, why do you blame JavaScript for being weird?
we basically what we people do now, we if we are able to write a function in JS, we think we are pro in JS, but that is not
Yeah.
the case. We are actually just neglecting those parts which we call weird, and if we try to understand those weird parts now, it would make sense basically. And those points are covered in that book. Basically, that is something which I was pretty surprised to notice, that it covered those weird parts, and explained those weird parts to be not so weird which we think actually to be.
Yes, yes. Topics like coercion, scopes, these are really very in-depth, in a very in-depth way discussed in the book. So I would highly recommend all the viewers to definitely check out the series. It is freely available on GitHub. The book is available on GitHub for free.
Yeah,
And the ambient docs are obviously definitely really awesome. So do check it out. And I guess that was it. I guess that was it with today's session. I believe it was a really, really in-depth discussion with Tathagat. I actually learned a lot of things because I'm also very keen towards front-end engineering. I also like writing a lot of JavaScript code. I really like making the UI part, the UX part. I really enjoy that part. So I also really enjoyed the conversation very much. And definitely a very good luck for your upcoming endeavors at Cred, Tathagat. I believe maybe
thanks,
I
Anurag.
may be paying my credit card bill from a screen that maybe you have made someday. So, so let's see how things goes, right? And really thanks for taking out some time for coming to the channel and throwing some light on all of these
Thanks,
topics.
Ankit. Thanks for having me.
So you can reach out to Tathagat if you want to have any insights around how to be a better and a good front-end engineer. And if you guys found the video to be useful enough, then don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you never miss a video on the channel. And do drop your comments if you have any more doubts. We would be really happy to answer all of them. That being said, we will meet up in the next session. Till then, take care, guys. Bye bye. Have a great week ahead and love you all.